Today's guest is someone who's passionate about helping people turn a good income into lasting wealth. Bronson Fidel is a financial advisor and founder of Fidel Financial, where he works with professionals, families, and entrepreneurs to build personalized strategies around investing, insurance, estate planning, and long term financial security. His philosophy is simple: every financial plan should start with your goal, not a product. Through his work, Bronson has helped hundreds of Canadians make smarter financial decisions, protect their families, and build generational wealth with confidence. Outside of finance, he's a father, a former military member, and ex-collegiate basketball player who brings discipline, leadership, and a practical approach to every conversation. Today, we're diving into the financial habits, mindset shifts, and wealth building strategies that every personal trainer, entrepreneur, and high income earner should know. Please welcome Bronson Fidal.
All right, Bronson, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. Living the dream.
There we go. All right, so Bronson, you went from being a personal trainer to a financial advisor. Okay, tell me about that journey.
Right. Yeah, so I started training, I want to say like probably 2015, 2016. And I was actually still in university at the time. And I was just I hated my job that I had at TD as a bank teller. And I was just looking for something else. So I was in the gym all the time. I would work out a good life. And I saw that people were making decent money. And you had, somewhat freedom over your time. So I'm like, let me give this a try. So I stepped into the world of personal training, and I loved what I did, but my heart was always in finance. So I studied in school. That's what I studied all the time in my free time, and I was an investor since I was 18 years old. And so I would talk about money with my clients, and I would talk about it with other personal trainers at the time. And a lot of people just started asking me money questions, like, what should I invest in next? And I passion for finance, but I had a very bad experience in my first, job in sort of the financial industry. So I kind of had a sour taste in my mouth, but then I started meeting more people. And one of those people was actually, so he was a client of another trainer at the gym. He's one of the founders of a company called Picton Mahoney, Dave Picton. So I had a couple conversations with him, and he's a big shot. And he told me about, kind of what it was to work in the investment space as opposed to just working in banking. So I kind of, had a few conversations with different people. My mom was an exec assistant at Fidelity Investments. So I ended up landing a job there in the sales division. So I worked for a few years working in sales and mutual fund sales. And when I developed my network of financial advisors there being in sales, I eventually got the opportunity to open up my own business as a financial advisor.
Wow, that's really cool. Nice. So that's quite a journey. What would be
For
the
sure.
biggest? I guess earlier on you mentioned that you made some financial mistakes, or you see some financial mistakes. What were they that you saw early in your career?
Yeah, so I can talk about my own personal experience as well as like what I've seen with clients. So for me, when I was a trainer, I was working at Good Life, and then I stepped out on my own. And when I stepped out on my own, I wasn't paying anything in taxes, right? I wasn't claiming anything. I was basically filing a net zero return. And so the issue with that was eventually I wanted to buy a house, but if you have no income on paper, you can't get a mortgage. Nobody's going to lend you money. So although it was nice that I was, avoiding a large tax bill from the income I was making because I was doing well, I wasn't able to, check the boxes of those financial goals that I had for myself. Right. So, in hindsight, sure, it always sucks to pay taxes, but everybody has to pay taxes, right? You can't avoid taxes forever, especially if you want to do things like buy real estate. So that was the biggest thing for me, the biggest mistake that I made. And it kind of pushed back my ability to get into the real estate market. I eventually, cleaned things up and was able to do it. But I could have gone into the market, first of all, at a cheaper price point and sooner, which would have been obviously a better position for myself.
Yeah.
Right. And I see that with a lot of trainers out there, especially trainers who are independent contractors or maybe they have their own corporation. right? There's a lot of people who are not, first of all, saving for like HST that they should be paying if you're making above a certain level, and for income tax. And so you can keep doing what you're doing, but at some point, if you want to, do things like buy real estate, maybe you want to expand and have a family, like things like that, you need to have income on paper. So it's one of those things where you got to have your finances organized. You have to have a plan to make sure that you can actually hit some of those goals.
Nice. So then, I guess what would be so why do you think that so many personal trainers struggle financially, especially when they're what you mentioned, independent contractor or working in a big box gym?
Yeah, so I think it's a few things. Even when you start working at a big box gym, it's still very much like an entrepreneurial environment, right? Like it's up to you to find clients. There's not a whole lot of guidance, at least in my experience. Nobody was talking to me about money when I was working at Good Life, right? Like guys would talk about their next investment idea, but nobody's telling you about like you should be maybe saving for retirement or you should be maybe contributing to CPP, right? Because there's no retirement plan through Good Life. So if you're not saving, outside, right, then what are you going to do when you have to step away from your career, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing is the exposure to because if you have a regular 9 to 5 job, a lot of employers nowadays will offer some sort of group benefits plan, which can include things like a pension or like a group RSP. But when you're in sort of the fitness space, those things don't really exist. So not having the exposure to that and not having colleagues who are doing those things is one thing. And in something like fitness, you have people coming from all different backgrounds, right? You might have some people coming fresh out of university. You might have some other people coming from different career paths. So it sometimes can be challenging when, in some cases, you're getting an influx of money, a large lump sum at one point. Somebody's paying their fees annually. You could be getting 10, 20 grand at once, right? So if you don't have the discipline to be able to put your money in the right places, that money can go pretty quick.
Yeah. So bring me back to 20-year-old Bronson. Wait, when did you start Good Life?
I think I was like 21.
21. Okay, so 21-year-old Bronson, you just got hired. What would be the financial game plan? Like with the mind you have now, what would be your financial game plan then? Let's just fast forward. You're now in 2021 in this current state that we're in. What would be your financial
Yeah,
game plan?
great question. So I think we have to do that in two parts, right? Like if you're in a big box gym, it might be slightly different than if you're on your own 100%, right? So when you're in a big box gym, you're going to be receiving your paychecks from your employer, right? Good Life is your employer. So you're already going to be paying your income tax along the way. So you get your biweekly check or whatever, taxes are already accounted for. Okay. Now, if you're in that scenario, what you need to do is figure out some sort of savings plan. Okay. Now, what I always suggest, the very first layer of your plan should be an emergency fund, right? That's the very base level. So, a good rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses set aside in a dedicated emergency fund. So, that's not invested, it's just sitting in savings or maybe like a high interest savings account, right? Once you have that built up, okay, then we need to take a look at if you have any debt, make sure you clear your high interest debt. And then from there, we can look at saving and investing. So a lot of people will say, like, oh, should I save 20% of my income? Should I save 30%? What should my number be? I say save and invest as much as you possibly can, right? Everyone's going to be different and everyone values different things. Some people like to have, money set aside for vacations, which is nice. But you also have to understand that that also detracts from your retirement plan, right? So if you're spending 2 to 4 grand a year on vacations, that's 2 to 4 grand that's not getting saved and invested. That could be worth, potentially hundreds of thousands in the future on an annual if you contribute that annually, right? So what I would say is start with the emergency fund, right? Figure out what your cash flow looks like, and as much of your cash flow as you can save and invest, right? Without making yourself broke and not being able to live your life. That's what you should save and invest.
Okay. Now, if you're not working in a big box gym,
If you're not working in a big box gym, you need to have a separate account for your taxes. You need to figure out how much you're expecting to make for the year, and then we can calculate what your taxes should be based on that, right? In
yeah.
Canada, we have tax brackets. So the more you make, the higher you climb on that tax bracket. And if you're in a higher tax bracket, that just means you have to set aside more money.
So when you're
Now,
looking at
with that, sorry, what were you going to ask?
I was gonna say, so like you mentioned having two separate accounts. So let's just say you had one account where people are depositing money into, and then another account that's gonna pay you.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. So you're going to have your business account, right? So whether you're set up as a sole proprietor or a corporation, your money management might look slightly different, but you've got your business account, right? And you can have a business checking account and a business savings account. So I would say put your income tax money and your HST money inside of your savings account, and you should be either remitting that regularly or having it saved there in something interest bearing, so that eventually when you file your taxes, you have the money already set aside,
Mm,
right? I see a lot of times people will come to me, they haven't filed in 4 years, and now they have a ridiculous bill that they have to pay. It could be
hmm.
50, 60 grand,
Yeah.
right? Or more,
Wow.
depending on how much you're making,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So absolutely set aside your money for taxes, because if you don't own real estate and you want to, they're going to ask for your notice of assessment. So you have to have filed and you have to have income reported in order to get a mortgage.
Yeah. So never skip your taxes, trainers.
100%.
So what should traders focus on first? They've been focusing on, what do you think, earning more money or investing earlier?
You have to have income before you start investing,
So
right?
it's getting
So
your earning up.
100%, right? So you got to start making money. And once you're in a profitable position, even if those profits, if you're able to save $100 a month, start investing, right? The minimum to start investing in mutual funds is $25 a month,
Yeah.
right? You can buy, units of mutual funds for $25 a month. So even if you don't think you're able to save a lot, if you're able to save anything, most people, right, can afford $25 a month. That's the bare minimum. But I see lots of trainers, and I have lots of trainers who are doing 500, $1,000 a month. And this
Mm.
is after we just went through a simple budget plan with them, took a look at their cash flow. It's a really eye-opening experience when you realize how much money you're spending at bars and on supplements and
Yeah.
stuff like that you really don't need, and it's not necessarily working towards your future,
Yeah.
right? Even supplements, right? Like people spend a lot of money on supplements, but 10 years down the road, like, are you going to look back and be like, was that a good use of my money? Did I need every single supplement that I have in my cabinet? Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a big supplement guy. I never was, right? I just like to eat food, but there's lots of ways to trim cost, right? If you
Yeah.
really do value that and you want to spend, your $500 on supplements, that's fine. But we got to figure out how can we create more cash flow so that you can eventually, retire at some point, step away from the career.
Yeah. I always do with supplements. I always try and get like some sort of brand deal where I'm not paying. Like two things I don't want to pay
Sure.
for is clothes and
Great
supplements.
idea.
I'm like, give me clothes. Yeah, I'll wear your clothes everywhere. I don't care. Like
100%.
supplements. Yeah, yeah, take a picture. This pre-workout's amazing. Yeah, like because at the end of the
100%.
day, it's all the same. It's all like it's just gives you
And
a little
Manny,
bit of
that's a
tingles. You're
great
good.
point, right? Because like for trainers, it's so easy to pop off on social media these days,
Yeah.
right? So if you're intentional about that and you actively seek out these brand deals, you could probably land one. And you can
Oh yeah.
probably cut a lot of costs that way. It just takes
Right.
effort, right?
That's all it does. You have to really think like, do I want to buy the Dr. Hyde every day at Popeyes? It's like, no. How about you go to Popeyes and just ask them like, hey, if I was to show this, would you be able to do that? And that's what it is.
100%.
I think social media has made it easier for trainers to, well, not even trainers, entrepreneurs to kind of figure out how do I navigate around my space and how can I, like, I think Alex Hormozy talks about this, where I'm trading one thing for another thing and bartering. It's easier to
Absolutely.
barter because it's like
Yeah,
I have this following on social media. I'll say this every single time, but I need to make sure that I get this every single time.
for sure. That's a
That's
great
dope,
point.
man. So, what would be one mistake that you think that if you were in your 20s, so 21-year-old Bronson, what's one mistake that can cost you decades later?
Not so I'm going to say this broadly, right? And we can sort of dissect it after, but just not having a plan, right?
Not a
As a
plan.
trainer, you create plans for people,
Yeah.
right? It's not rocket science to do the same thing for your finances. You already do it for people's fitness plans, right? So taking that same mindset about how intentional you are with your own fitness plan or your client's fitness plan, take that same level of intention and put that towards your money, right? So figuring out on a monthly basis, where is my money going, first of all?
Hmm.
Why am I not able to save? And that's the first layer of understanding so that we can figure out, okay, how can you trim costs or how can you increase your profitability as a trainer? And if you're able to do one of those two things, now you have more cash flow,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
need cash flow in order to save and invest. If you don't have the cash flow, then you can't invest anything.
Yeah. Cash is king.
100%.
All right. So now let's talk about building wealth while building a career. So because that's a big thing that goes into this segment. So what's the difference between earning a good income and actually building wealth?
I see this all the time, Manny. We have high income earners who could be making 150 grand, but they spend 140 grand a year,
Mm,
right? So you look rich, maybe you got a nice vehicle, maybe you got a nice house, but all your cash is going out the window, right?
yeah.
So income allows you to do things lifestyle wise, but if you're building wealth, you don't have to work as hard at some point, right? Your
Yeah.
assets should be working for you in the background while you sleep. So things like acquiring real estate, right? You can buy a property, you can rent it out to tenants. They pay you that either they're going to pay your mortgage or maybe they pay you more than the mortgage, and then you have cash flow from the property,
Yeah.
right? Having investments, right? Put some money in a TFSA, RSP, and those investment accounts that you have access to. Your money's going to have the opportunity to grow inside of those accounts as long as you hold investments inside of them, right?
Mm,
Another big mistake, Manny, is I see a lot of people who have high interest tax free savings accounts, which are paying like less than 1%, and there's no money invested. The whole purpose of these accounts is to invest and grow your money, not just to hold it in cash,
yeah.
right? So just remember that at some point your income could stop, right? You could have an injury. And if you have a serious injury, you might not have the ability to do your job. So, what
Mm,
is your contingency plan for that? Right? If income stops, then you can't sustain that lifestyle. You need the wealth alongside the income in order to, at some point, comfortably step away from what you do every day.
yeah. That's good. So like if let's look at it like this, okay? So if you need to like earning a good income and building wealth are two different things. Someone with good income has to take the necessary steps or have a plan in place to build the wealth. So what would be the first thing? How do you start that plan if you've never invested before?
If you've never invested before, absolutely speak to a professional. that's
Yeah.
that's that's the first action you should take, right? Whether that's someone at the bank or whether it's somebody you know, somebody like me, just start with a conversation. Nobody's going to charge you. Like nobody in my industry, we're not like lawyers and accountants. We don't bill hourly,
Yeah.
right? The way I get paid is a percentage of assets that I manage, or I get paid a commission if I sell somebody insurance.
Yeah.
So if somebody picks up the phone and calls me, they're not getting a bill after the fact, even if I give them free information offering value,
Yeah.
right? So speak with a professional, work with somebody that you trust, and they will help you build that plan, right? And trainers should understand this, right? You preach to people all the time. Like it's very difficult to get in shape on your own, right? There's the motivation aspect, there's the actually knowing what you're supposed to do. It's also building the program, right? It works the same thing with your money. If that's not your area of expertise, outsource it and work with a professional because they will help you build that plan.
Yeah. So you're like the personal trainer for people's wallets.
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. I'm going to use that.
All right, I like it. Yeah, because the same idea as a trainer, you work with people, you kind of get them. You because it's like I can answer every question for someone fitness wise, but the reality is that like it means nothing to answer a question until I'm actually working with you. That's when results happen because it's like the accountability factor and all the other factors that come in with being a trainer. Same idea. It's like okay, I can give you a ton of advice, and it's up to you to kind of either a figure this out and go navigate it, or B, you hire me to kind of continue giving you advice and do the research for you. Um,
100%.
so like if we're looking at it, what happens? I guess you already said this, but like what's the role of compound growth and how does it work over the next 30 to 40 years? And I think I'll utilize this quote. Albert Einstein said the most curious or mysterious thing in life was the fact of how compound interest works. So explain I understand it, but explain it in layman's terms to people because people you mentioned a couple times where it's like 30 years 20 years and as a 20-year-old you don't think like that. I know for me I never thought about it. I wish someone talked to me about it when I was 20 because I'd be further along than I am now. and I'd be happy, but it's like no matter what you're happy, but like I'd be like so much further. If someone just said, "Hey man, so I know you're making a lot of money, like you don't have to take it all, just take even just 10% of it, $100, put it in somewhere. Don't touch it, put it into savings, grow it. You could have bought that house when you went to this college. You could have did this. You could have paid off like it's anyways. Yeah, describe to
100%.
me compound growth in the layman's terms.
Yeah. So think about a snowball effect. Okay.
Yep.
So, and I'll do some simple math here. So let's say you start with $100. Okay. The long-term average of the U.S. market tends to be around 10 to 12% annual return. Okay. So let's just use 10% because it's easy to do the math with. So if you've got $100 today and you put it into, let's say, the S&P 500 and you get a 10% return,
Mhm.
by the end of the year, you have $110.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, January 1st, the following year, you have 110 that's still invested in the S&P 500. So now you're not just earning 10% on the $100 that you just started with. You're earning 10% on your 110 that you now have,
Yeah.
right? Every year that you continue to earn those returns, you're not just earning money on your initial investment, you're earning returns on the initial investment plus the growth that you've accumulated over time.
Mm.
So when we do the math to see like how can you accumulate wealth, the best thing you can do is put money in the market as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
If we use a small number like 10 grand, right? A lot of trainers can probably save 10 grand. It wouldn't be that hard to do, right? You land one more client, you're probably going to charge them 10 grand a year at least,
Yep.
right? So if we look at 10 grand invested, let's say you're a 20-year-old and you plan on retiring at age 65, right? 45 years of having 10 grand invested turns into $728,000 by age 65.
Wow.
You get 10% return each year,
Wow.
right? That's not adding any money at all. That's pure growth. You put
Yeah.
in 10 grand, now you've got 728,
Wow.
right? And that's compounding.
Jeez. That's crazy. And
Insane.
that's like not even, that's like you not even trying to do anything. That's just you saying, I'm gonna put this $10,000 away for a rainy day.
If you put it in a diversified portfolio, like the broad market,
Yeah.
an index fund or a mutual fund, right? You literally don't have to look at it ever again.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working with a professional. You don't have to do anything. You show up to an annual review meeting and you make sure your professional is doing what they're doing, but you do not even have to look at your account because that's what you're paying a professional to do for you.
That's amazing. All right, so let's take it to the business side. So once a trainer becomes self-employed, what's the number one thing that changes financially? So they leave a big box gym
Yeah.
and now they're on their own. They said, all right, you know what? And I'll paint the picture because I think the obvious answer is for the trainer who's not good at the big box gym, you should probably find a new profession. But let's say this is a level 4 trainer at a big box gym. You've been crushing it, and you're thinking about going on your own, and you finally take the leap. And you're like, I'm going on my own. What changes financially because they're self-employed?
Yeah, great question. So, first of all, your tax situation. Okay.
Yeah.
So, once you step away from a big box gym, you have to figure out how you're going to organize your business. So, there's different ways that you can organize a business. The most common would be a sole proprietorship or a corporation. Okay.
Yep.
So the difference between those two is as a sole proprietor, you're going to be incurring income tax the same way as if you're an employee. So you're subject to the same tax rates. With a corporation, though, you benefit from the small business tax deduction, where it's about a 13% tax rate inside of your corporation.
Mm,
Okay. There are more complicated things that go alongside a corporation. Like you have to figure how you're going to pay yourself personally from the corp. So that's a separate conversation. Okay. So first of all, organizing your business, deciding how you're going to do that,
yeah.
and then second to that is how you're going to be paid. Right. So you can charge your clients on an annual basis. You can charge them semi-annually. You can charge them monthly. You can charge them bi-weekly. You have to decide what your business model is going to look like, right? I think when I was at Good Life, we would get paid bi-weekly, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yep.
And you would get a commission on new sales. So if you sell someone and they pay annually, I think you get a commission on that,
Yeah.
right? But you're going to be paid your paycheck regularly every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? If you're on your own, you have to decide how you want to be paid and how you're going to charge your clients,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And the third thing, kind of going alongside structuring your business, is you need to make sure that you're paying and filing your own taxes, right?
Hmm.
If you work at a big box gym, your employer is going to remit your taxes on your behalf,
Yeah.
right? But now you are receiving 100% of revenue, and you have to make sure that you save enough to pay your taxes. And you
Paying your
also have to
taxes
charge your
seems really
clients.
loud.
You also have to charge your clients HST.
Yeah. That's another thing I noticed. So that's another thing I know from trainers who don't work in big box gyms. They stop charging HST. They stop giving contracts out. They stop doing all the things that are business, like the
Yeah.
business, and there's a lot more handshake deals. So what's the mistake of trainers doing that on their own in terms of like, and I talk about as a business, not in terms of morally,
Yeah.
ethically, or anything like that. Just as a business, what's the mistake that they're taking, or the risks that they're taking by doing stuff like that?
Well, first of all, liability, right? If you have no contracts, you have really nothing backing you up.
Yeah,
And people who aren't doing contracts probably don't even have insurance, frankly,
yeah.
right? So if somebody gets hurt and sues you, you're going to be screwed, right?
Mm,
So that's the first major risk. The other side of that is if you want to expand your business, so if you want to open up a facility or you want to invest some money into advertising and you want to get a business loan, if you don't have enough business revenue, nobody's going to lend you money, right? You might have the cash coming in. You could be making 250 a year, but on paper you're only saying you make 30 or 40. Nobody's going to lend you money,
mm,
right? So if you want to expand your business, that's extremely important. The other thing a lot of people don't think about in the fitness space is you can sell your business. If you have no financials, nobody's going to buy your business.
yeah.
And I find like it happens in my industry, in the financial industry, it happens in almost every other industry, but I don't see a lot of trainers selling off their clients, which you could actually do. People will pay
Hmm.
money to acquire your clients,
Yeah.
right?
I
But
guess
you
so. Yeah,
have a
but if you have
strong work.
long-standing clients who pay every year, it's like, what's the
Absolutely.
value of this?
Well, and then you have to be able to prove that they're paying every year and how much they're paying. So how are you going to do that if you have no contracts or records?
That's smart. And I guess this is the general issue I find with the fitness and health and fitness wellness industry is that it's so broad, so new, but doesn't operate like a typical business space because you
Yeah.
have like you just mentioned it, selling off your clients. I have clients who are carpenters and like people are in trades, and they get it right away. They're
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, I bought this business off of somebody," or even like I've heard about people selling their cleaning business. Like I got a whole list of
absolutely.
clients who are downtown, and I don't want to do it anymore. You can buy it from me. It's 2 years. It'll cost you this much. Okay, cool. Here, check done.
Yeah.
But I think it's because of how lucrative people's business. People don't think about how lucrative their business is. So you mentioned it. If you have 10 clients, all paying you $10,000 a year, let's just say, that's a
Hmm.
$100,000 business. So now, what's that worth to you? But what's that
Yeah.
worth to someone else who doesn't need to find new clients?
Well, and a standard rate is like 3.5 times revenue.
Yeah,
So if your business is producing 100 grand in revenue, you could probably sell it for 350 grand,
yeah. Wow.
right? But it might be harder to do that in the fitness space because people don't really necessarily do that. People buy facilities and stuff, but
Yeah.
trainers don't really sell to other trainers for some reason I don't understand.
I think it's just they just don't get like they don't get it.
Yeah,
Like
they don't get
here's my
it.
clients. Thanks. So amazing.
Yeah,
It's got this
yeah. They
free
give them
source of
away for
revenue.
free. They give
Yeah,
them away for free. It's crazy to me.
yeah. I would think that would be it. I think that would be. I think a kickback fee or something like that. There should be something like that. Okay, so
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure.
what systems should every trainer have in place to build a long-term financial stability? So now they're out on their own. They're self-employed. They've either gone incorporated or sole proprietor. And let's just say they went to the incorporated route. I've done. I think I don't know. Let's just say they went the incorporated route. They figured out all their stuff. What type of
Yeah.
systems should they have in play?
Yeah. So I'm always like sales minded first. So you
Yeah,
need to have a sales funnel. How are you finding people to talk to? How are you bringing in new business? Right. A lot of trainers out there who have been in the game for a long time, they have their core client base and they don't really think about what happens if one of my clients drops off. Right. People could get sick. They could move. They could have a change in their family or financial situation, or they just don't want to train anymore, right? You have to be prepared for that. So always have a way to find and always be in front of new people. So nowadays it's very easy to do that on social media, right? even if you're comfortable with where your business is at, people should still know who you are. And maybe if you have a full client list already and you don't want to take on new clients, have a wait list, right? People who want to work with you, but you just don't have the space yet. That way, if somebody drops off, you know who you're calling first,
Yeah.
right? It's a seamless transition to make sure your business is staying strong, right? You also need systems in terms of how you're going to be programming for your clients, right? You can benefit from all of the AI platforms that we have access to now, right? You can train your AI models to build programs exactly how you would build them by inputting your existing programs that you've already built for tons of other clients, right?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be spending hours and hours building programs anymore. You should be focusing on actually spending time with your clients and bringing in new business,
Yeah.
right? From the business side. And then like just communication with clients. How are you communicating with them? Use one, I would say one form of communication, whether you're going to communicate with people by text and phone or whether it's email only. Like for me, one of the most frustrating things is when people WhatsApp me, text me, call me, email me, DM. It's like you need to have everything in one place. And
Yeah.
especially like my clients will text me and stuff like that, but sometimes I'll respond saying, I'm going to reply to this by email because it requires a more in depth response, or I'm going to call you and explain.
Yeah.
Right? So understand how you communicate best so that your clients are going to receive the information they need to receive it. So all
Yeah.
of those things kind of work together to build a strong business.
Makes sense. Okay, so now let's get into the last segment, which is protecting and growing your wealth. I think this is probably the biggest thing, and this is one of the things that I think when it comes to the longevity of a personal trainer in the game, it's like understanding. And now we're going into the big box gym and also the people outside. And so this is more for the people outside of the big box gym. So why should trainers think about insurance and protecting their income? And I asked this question because you mentioned insurance, and I remember when I was on my own, I got insurance, right? I was encouraged to get insurance. I got it. So why is it important? And then how? And then in terms of protecting your income, why is this important for trainers?
So let me ask you this, Manny. What kind of insurance did you get?
I met one with my insurance broker. I asked him, I said, I need a personal trainer. I work in a small box gym at the time,
Hmm?
and I need liability insurance for whatever happens. So they gave me, it was $1 million worth of insurance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say every trainer should have at least two kinds of insurance, right?
Okay.
So you need your liability insurance, of course. If you get sued, right? Somebody gets hurt or something like that, and they sue you, that protects you. But where a lot of trainers are underinsured is for disability insurance. So
Mm,
if you get sick or injured, and
yeah.
this happened to a buddy of mine at Good Life, he slipped. This guy could deadlift 500 pounds. He slipped a disc in his back picking up a 25-pound plate.
Wow.
Right? These are things you don't expect, but could happen and happen all the time.
Yeah.
And he had to take months off of work with no income.
Yeah.
Right? So disability insurance protects you if you cannot do your job due to an injury or an illness.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
That's something that I don't think any 20-year-old thinks about that.
No.
No.
We're like, oh, I'm in the gym. I'm in the gym every day. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to get injured.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people who are serious in the gym actually get injured more than regular people.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They take themselves a little bit further. All
For
right.
sure.
So what does financial freedom actually look like for a personal trainer?
That's so subjective.
Okay.
What I would say is you need to understand what you actually value in life. What are the things that you want to do?
Yeah.
So for me, it's really freedom over my time, right? If I decide I want to take 3 weeks off of work, I need to make sure my finances are in order and my business can still run without me there, right? So I
Yeah.
think for most people, they would agree with that. You should have some sort of like you should have the system in place where even if you're not physically there running the business, it could still run itself,
Yeah.
right? And that will help you create passive income, right? If you have those systems in place. And an example of that for a trainer could be having like a junior trainer, right? Who
Yeah.
steps in and trains your people sometimes. And that's also a great way to expand your business because you
Mm,
can pay your junior trainer an hourly wage, right? That's not the full rate that your client is paying, but it's still under your system and your program, right? So
yeah.
your client's still happy to pay the same rate.
That's actually really smart. If I was to be a trainer, get someone that's in like school, like in
Absolutely.
fitness health promotion, and be like, okay, you're gonna shadow me. I'm gonna pay you cash and then sometimes I might have to be vacation, or is this speaking engagement, or this or that?
100%.
You give me an idea. That's really good. I like that.
100%.
So if you can give every trainer that's listening to this at some point this year, next year, tomorrow, whenever, one financial habit to start this week, what would be?
Set aside some money into a dedicated account. Okay. And just start there, right? You don't necessarily have to attach the reason for that yet, but just starting that habit. And I would suggest automate it, right? You can go into your bank and say, I want to set aside $200 into this account automatically,
Yeah.
right? If you start there, then you develop that savings habit if you don't have it already. Ideally, though, that money is getting invested, of course, so it can grow.
Yeah.
But where a lot of people need to start is by seeing that habit happen first. Because if you're doing that, that's already better than spending your money, of course.
Yeah.
And if you have that on an automated basis, you're less likely to spend that money.
Yeah. I heard Bob Proctor talk about that. Automate the things that you need to do every day. So it's like get your bills to be automated, get everything to be automated, so you don't need to think about it. And now it's one less thing that you need to worry about. And now you can think about income producing. You can think about
For sure.
creativity. You can be more creative. You can be free flowing. But if you're thinking, when do I have to pay that bill? Do I have to pay that today? Oh no, I'm late. Like he's like automate everything. So I have that. I adopted that a long time ago, and I'm like, yeah, everything's automated for
So
me when it
important.
comes to bills.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's great. All right, so last question, and this is kind of the tail end of everything. All right, so we got the 20-year-old trainer. That's when people start training, even though they need to be older. We got the 20-year-old trainer who just finished college, just finished university, listening right now. Okay, and they're like, okay, they're automating their savings. What's one piece of financial advice that can change the next 40 years of their life? So by the time that they're 60, what's that one thing?
Invest that money, man. So the limits for a tax-free savings account are 7,000 per year,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you could have more than that because it carries forward each year you don't contribute. So that's probably for most people who are just starting in their careers. They probably don't have a tax problem yet because they aren't making that much. Maybe they're making 50 or 60. You don't really have a tax problem at 50 or 60 grand in income. So
Yeah.
a tax-free savings account for most people is a great way to tax shelter your money because investment earnings are taxable in certain accounts, right? So tax-free savings account means it's tax-free forever and it's flexible and liquid. So if you ever need to use the money for something down the road, it's still available. But if you start that now at age 20, I talked about the numbers, right? If you
Yeah.
can save 10 grand a year inside of a TFSA or even 7 grand if you're at the contribution limits, right? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Over 40 years.
Yeah.
So that can absolutely change your life.
Wow.
Because the alternative of that is you have nothing in savings and you have to work the rest of your life. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, it's a horrible life.
You want to have and some people choose to do that, but you want to have the option
Yeah.
to like ease back and do whatever you want to do in life at some point.
I hear you. That's amazing. I think so. I definitely think that personal trainers everyone needs to learn about it. But I talk to my trainers because I love my trainers. I love thinking in the personal trainer brain because I think you want to help people all the time.
Right.
But the gap is that you never help yourself. You never put your own oxygen mask on your income. And I have so many trainers that are older and they're still working and they can't stop working because they never saved any money. Because they never put anything away, they never started investing.
Yeah.
And I learned about investing a long time ago, and I'm like, yeah, I'm an investor. And I try and impact my trainers by letting them know. I'm like, I had one trainer was like, oh, I might go move out. I'm like, why? It's like, oh, I'm like, is your household bad? Like, is there something that you need to get away from? It's like, no. I'm like, so why move out? I'm like, take this money, save it, and I'm like, let's say 4 years from now, you want to buy a condo. Well, now you just saved up enough for your down payment. You can save enough for a lot more, right? Like, understand, like, it's about how much money you can keep. There's no point of paying someone else's mortgage if you don't need to. And I wish
100%.
my parents tried to tell me that, but I was too young and dumb, and I was like, I don't care. I want to be free. And it's like, I don't know. I think every kid deals with that. I don't know if every West Indian kid deals with that. It's like I need to be out of this household. me out of this rule filled household. I don't know, but definitely
So
it's one of those things.
yeah, so for sure, and I understand why people want to move out, and it is good in terms of your development. I think, like I did that, and I look back, would I have rather stayed at home? Like, yeah, it would have been a better financial decision, but at the same time, I'm very cheap, and I lived in Chinatown for $800 a month,
Yeah,
and there was rats in the street, and I just did what I had to do. You
yeah,
know, so there's ways to do it in an affordable way, like get
yeah,
roommates, right?
yeah,
There was a time where I was living downtown at Church and Shooter. It was a one bedroom plus den, and there was three dudes in the condo. Right? We made it happen.
yeah,
I was spending less than $1,000 a month to rent downtown. Right?
yeah,
So a lot of people they'll want their own place and they'll want to set it up. And you got to understand, it's not just the 2 grand in rent. You got to
yeah,
furnish it.
yeah,
Right? You got to pay utilities. There's other costs that go with it. And even with that, if you're paying 2 grand a month, some people don't think annually. That's 24 grand a year,
yeah,
right? If you want to buy real estate, 24 grand a year, if you can save that, right? That's a down payment in like 5 years.
yeah,
So can you wait a little bit longer maybe, or can you do it a different way to trim
yeah,
your costs? That's always a better financial decision.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Bronson. That's it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to educate us on finances and just growing our wealth. I want to have you on here again. I actually want to have you on here a couple times.
Let's do it.
I need to get back to doing more podcasting, but I'll definitely have you on again because I think there's lots of different navigations we can talk about when it comes to wealth building and it comes
For
to
sure.
just life in general. Okay.
100%.
All right. Thank
Absolutely.
you so
This was
much.
great, Manny. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
And then I'm gonna drop your socials on the bottom. But if you want just one more shout out to you, where could everyone find you?
Everyone can find me on Instagram at Bronson Fridal, and Fridal Financial is my business page. You can also take a look at my website, fridalfinancial.ca, and you'll find me online.
Dope. All right, Bronson. You have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Cheers.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Rise and Thrive podcast. If you got value out of today's conversation, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Leave a review if you're listening on your favorite platform, and share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it. Our mission is simple: to help you rise above your current circumstances and thrive in every area of your life. From business to finance, to fitness, faith, and personal growth. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, you don't have to stay where you started. You can always rise, and you can always thrive.